Cool. And we're live. Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Rudy, I love learning about how people helped build household name brands. Okay. And I have Rudy Mawer today. I'm going to introduce you, Rudy, in a second. But, I've had Nolan Bushnell. He talked about Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, Tony Horton of P90X, Rick Cesari, who helped grow companies like George Foreman Grill, Juice Man Juicer, OxyClean, Sonicare. So check those episodes out. Before I introduce today's guest, who I've known for a while, Rudy, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, which I co-founded with my business partner, John Corcoran. At Rise 25, we help businesses really give to their best relationships, connect to their best relationships by running your podcast. So we help people launch and run podcasts. Since 2008, I've been podcasting and working with other podcasters. And really, for me, relationships are the number one thing in my life. And I always look at ways to give to my best relationship and, profiling my favorite people, their thought leadership and what they're working on is always something that's top of mind for me. So if you want to learn more, go to rise25.com and check that out. Without further ado, we have Rudy Mawer, and he is the CEO of Pier. He's investor advisor for Retail Ecommerce Ventures. It's run by Ty Lopez and Alex Mehr, and their holdings include Pier, RadioShack, Dress Barn, Stein Mart, Franklin Mint, Linds and Things, and many more, and growing. And he's also founded ROI Machines, because he's not busy enough, which is a digital agency that helps companies, in some cases, get, Rudy, tens of thousands of leads with paid ads, setting up everything needed for a funnel from design, development, copywriting, and much more. In his past life, was an elite sports nutritionist and trainer, working with Hollywood celebrities, elite athletes, NBA players, WWE, gold medalists, and so many more. Rudy, thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
I want to talk about relaunching a brand. But before we do, just talk about the mentality, training these elite athletes, NBA players, gold medalists. What were some of the things that because they were like, listen, Rudy, I've been trained by the best of the best. Why are you different? What was the mentality you came in with them when you were training them?
Yeah, so it's funny. So it's kind of actually similar when you say that to their mentality versus when someone talks to me about hiring me for an agency, right? They're like, I've tried 5 agencies before, it never worked out. Same here, I tried blah, blah, blah before, didn't work out. And I think both times, the reason I've been successful in, running big brands, running, lots of stuff agency-wise versus elite athlete-wise is because I take a more holistic approach to everything, right? So with the athletes or with celebrities, I wouldn't just be a fitness trainer or a nutritionist. I had a sports science background, so I understood hormones, I understood sleep, I understood training, obviously, nutrition, obviously, supplementation. And that's kind of the ethos I took over to my marketing firm here, where we don't just do Facebook ads, or we don't just do Google ads, or we don't just write copy or build the CRMs and tech, right? We do a holistic approach to the entire business, even down to the fulfillment, helping make sure that's set up, and helping make sure that the actual offer and the proposition and the avatar is all built out. Because without any of that, the little stuff doesn't work. Just like in elite sport, you can have the best athlete, but if the foundations are off biomechanically or nutritionally or hormonally or stress, cortisol, sleep, the athlete doesn't work like it should, okay? Just like the funnel, even if it's a world-class funnel, it won't work like it should if the offer isn't quite right, or the Facebook ads aren't set up right, or the back end isn't built out, okay? So it's more of that holistic approach, I would say, and understanding. I was a chess champion as a child, and I always come back to that, and I've even joked that I would love to one day build a business of just chess champions to see how it functions.
I was just on Masterclass the other day watching Gary Kasparov's Masterclass on chess.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because it applies to business, right? It applies to everything.
The chess board is an ecosystem, and it's about understanding what's happening there, what can happen, and if you make one move, what cascade of effects does that cause, right? And I think business is extremely similar, and my ability to be able to understand that whole ecosystem from a bird's eye view when most people are in the weeds is what allowed me to be good in sports nutrition, sports science, good in business, good in marketing.
So with chess, was it something that was natural for you, or did you really have to practice?
No, it was, yeah, I think my brain, everyone's brain's different, right? Like everyone's body. Some people are born jumpers, people are sprinters, some people are marathon runners, some people are wrestlers, right? It's kind of brains the same. Some people are creative, some people are logical, strategic, number, data driven. So yeah, I just started playing it as a kid at school in chess club, started winning chess club when I was like a really young kid. I beat like the oldest in the whole school in annual chess tournaments, and I think it just suited how my brain functions.
So Rudy, I want to talk about rebuilding a brand, but there's also another piece of this, which is I'm wondering what some of the lessons you learned from your parents, because I don't know if most people know, but they are all Olympic athletes, gold medalists.
Yeah.
What did you see with them?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was never born into money, even though they were very successful. 20 years ago, triathlon was the sport that my mom won a gold medal in. And even now, like I'm actually friends, and two of my clients are the current Olympic gold medalists at triathlon. It's not a sport like the NFL or the NBA where you earn crazy money, right? It's better now, but 20 years ago, it was nothing except sponsorships, really. I think you won like 20 grand for being the best in the world, which is like insane. But no, what I learned, I learned like financially, wasn't born into money, or they weren't entrepreneurs. But I guess what I wouldn't say I specifically learned something like, that I can pinpoint. But if I look back from what I saw of my parents, my mom trained for 3 different sports every day and worked and looked after me. And she was up at 6. She would swim and bike, go to work, pick me up from school later. And then she'd go and train 2 more times and come home at 9, 10 p.m., eat, and repeat the cycle, right? And that's kind of like how I was
Talk about dedication.
Yeah, that's how so that, that I got to travel the world to all the races, because triathlons are all over the world, Mexico, Canada, all around the world. Hawaii, I went a bunch of times. So I got to spend a lot of time with elite athletes, and like, while I can't pinpoint like specific strategies that I necessarily learned, it's just more like, I think, being surrounded in that environment growing up as a kid, right? That's probably what impacted me. And I think if I had to pinpoint it to one thing, I don't remember this, but my mom always has told me this since I became successful. She said, as a kid, I always told you could do anything you ever wanted. So I think it's probably that, right?
I mean, Rudy, like your subconscious is being trained
Yeah.
as you're observing this.
Yeah.
Working hard, just going after what you want, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My mom, ironically, she was very old. She was in her 40s when she won. And most most top athletes are in their 30s, or even nowadays their 20s. So the triathlon is an older sport, but again, it's like defying the odds and achieve, if you set your mind to it and work hard and smart, you can do it, right?
When you were young, Rudy, what did you want to be?
So I was never like, I always hear stories of kids saying when they were young, they wanted to be like an astronaut or a doctor or something. And my parents have never told me that I ever said anything like that. I did say that I wanted to move to America.
Why?
I was obsessed with basketball, and I came over to America a few times on vacation, and I just loved it. Just seemed more vibrant, more energized, bigger and better in life. Life seemed bigger out in America. And I was, everyone says, oh, London's cool. Why would you want to leave England? Like, London is like Manhattan. I didn't live in London. I lived in like Missouri equivalent. You got to remember, I was from like a decent sized city in England, but it's just a different mindset, right? And it's much different, more mentality. So back to your original question. I don't know if there was a specific thing I said, but I was always obsessed with money too. I was the kid that got banned from selling in school. I made my mom go to like the Sam's Club equivalent. And she had to like get the business card from our friend who owned a mechanic shop just to get us into Sam's Club to then buy candy that I could then go. I made my dad set up a PayPal and an eBay account when I was like 7, when in the UK, no one even knew what that was, right? Because technology's behind. We barely had a computer. Most houses didn't even have a computer when I was a kid. and I was buying and selling on eBay. So I think it was just more the entrepreneur in me, and for some reason the obsession with money.
Was it a big deal for you when you start training and you love the NBA, you wanted to move to America, training some NBA players?
Yeah, that was cool. It was more with them. It was more consulting, like virtually on nutrition, supplementation. So it wasn't quite like as like, with them every day, training them physically, because they all have like a full team around them. So I wasn't in that. I was brought in as a consultant to look over their nutrition and supplementation regime.
That's still cool.
It was cool, but the funny part was I actually drifted away from basketball back then. So when I was doing it, I wasn't a big basketball fan. And I actually recently, when COVID hit and I stopped traveling, I picked it up again. And now I play every day and I'm obsessed with it again. But I went, definitely cool to work with these people. But just like anything in life, once you start doing it a lot, sadly, it becomes kind of normal, right? So it's like, I remember the days when like half of my friends now in the entrepreneur space, I was learning from them 6 years ago, listening to their podcasts, and like now I'm speaking on stage at their events and hanging out with them, and they're my business partners and friends. So, and it's like you have to pinch yourself a few times and remember where you've come from. But I think most of us as entrepreneurs, we're always looking forward, not backwards, right? So you don't always appreciate that.
Talk about that, Rudy, for a second. Some of the people that you learned from early on that now are your colleagues and you are speaking on their stages and doing business with them.
Yeah, so I mean, like one of them is digital marketer, right? Like they were the first courses and like podcasts I learned, and now I'm friends with Ryan Dice and all the owners of it. I spoke at TNC, their biggest event, and I went to that event 4 years ago. 5 years ago when I didn't really know what any of this was. I always remember Ryan Moran, if you know Ryan Moran, owner of capitalism.com. I think his was the first event I ever went to. Didn't know who Ryan was. Someone just said I should go there. And I was sat at the back of the room, had no clue. I think it's his first capitalism or second event, like 5-6 years ago. Didn't know a whole ton about marketing back then. I knew a decent amount, mainly Facebook ads. And then I think like 2 years ago, he became a client of mine, and then I was speaking on his stage, and now he's a friend, right? And Ty Lopez, the obvious one. Like I remember seeing his videos on YouTube 5-6 years ago. And
who hasn't seen his videos?
Yeah, no. Exactly. And then now we speak every day, and we're business partners. So it's just the evolution of life, if you work hard.
Yeah, I mean, we hung out, and you spoke at Stephen Georgi and Justin Goff's event, which you gave an amazing presentation. They have some killer stuff in the direct response world. How did you meet Ty Lopez?
So, obviously, started to kind of get to know him in the space. We spoke at similar events together, but there was kind of two ways. Eventually, we got connected because he was looking to restart an agency, and I had a big agency that was pretty well known in the internet marketing world, so several people mentioned my name. And then actually two people made actually kind of got everything moving was one of my friends, Paul Getter. He has a big marketing firm called The Nerds. He was helping Ty as a consultant and friend, connected us, and then actually my head copywriter and creative director was doing some consulting and copy for Ty too. So we just started, meeting, talking. Me and Ty built a relationship, and then eventually we started an agency together. And that started to take off for a few months, but it was about 2 years ago or just before we started getting Dress Barn and these other brands. So we kind of pivoted pretty quickly in a sense of, our time and attention is now on these brands, and that's where I kind of work 14 hours a day, is supporting, Ty's on the front line. It's like we've got a nice setup. Ty's on the front line finding the deals. Alex is in the middle between Ty and the brands and me, and then I'm like operating all the brands with Alex and Ty and overseeing them.
So let's talk about, relaunch. Now you're, kind of in heading up Pier 1. So what does that look like for you?
I mean, it's a big company, right? That one is actually our biggest because we took it over. We took it over at like inception when it was just coming down, went into bankruptcy, but we relaunched right away. So, a lot of these other brands, they Dress Barn was similar, but linens and things was out of sales for a long time. So Pier 1's a much bigger one, faster to regrow it, more going on, probably a stronger brand name because people, it was really active, right? Just last year, I think 2019, as you see on the screen, over $1.5 billion in revenue. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it's all the challenges that you would expect of running a brand that is probably bigger than what most of us are used to in the internet marketing world. Running a brand, a brand like here, it's kind of, you have different issues and the issues are much bigger. Like I don't do a whole bunch in my agency now. I have a really great team there, about 50, 60 staff. It's really, I built it to be ran really well without me, which came at a good time, luckily, because of all of this. And I'm still involved and work there daily, but I was saying to the head of ops and the director of marketing, I was like, all of our small problems here are nothing when I go and look at what I'm dealing with all these brands, and not in a bad way, like these brands are in trouble, that they're actually doing great since we took over them and we're making such tremendous strides forward with them. But it's just like anything, it's amplified, right? The bigger the brand, the bigger the problems, bigger the revenue, the bigger the problems, more money you make, more problems you get, but you're also better at dealing with them.
What are some of the challenges? What are some examples of challenges?
Just hyper growth, right? Hyper growth and building the brand around hyper growth. I would say other challenges are you're taking over a brand at bankruptcy. It has its own set of challenges with like customer experience, because customers don't really understand that. So that's something you have to work hard on in the first year and make it clear that, and even just some of your like vendors and stuff, right? Which I get, like if they were selling as furniture before, a company was building as furniture and company goes bankrupt, sometimes the company goes bankrupt and the invoices are left, right? And then even the vendors are hurt, and that's not our liability because we take over as a new LLC basically. But you have to reestablish those relationships too.
Yeah, talk about that for a second, because I imagine trust is lost in the brand, even though you take over, and they're like, I don't know if I want to do business with a company that stiffed me on lots of invoices. So how do you rebuild that? What do you do?
It's not hard, right? We've faced these barriers, faced these issues, and then we figure out an easy solution. Like you just have to jump up, just explain it, right? Basically, versus just pinging them an email. You have to actually explain what's happened, right? And you have to explain, look, we bought this company. There's nothing to do with us. None of the legacy founders or owners or directors are involved over here. We own Retail Ecommerce Ventures. You can see all the brands behind us. We're also ran from, a team of marketing experts that have built e-commerce brands for 20, 30 years, 40 years combined since the internet basically started. And yeah, we just kind of explain that and just, show that we have multiple brands behind us, and that, and then we start small, right? Sometimes, like, in terms of like net terms and stuff, we might change and like make sure we pay them quicker and pay them in smaller chunks. So you can build trust that way. And it's just, you get obviously a couple are like, no, but it's been fine. I mean, it's a challenge. It was a challenge, but it's been fine. We've worked through it.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, it's like you just got to build trust slowly, right? Yeah. Okay. And it starts with just those gestures of, okay, we're paying you on time and quick. Talk about, so, you're an e-commerce guy, you are a direct response guy, you are a media guy. So you take over Pier 1, and, I know you love sales, right? So how do you look at what product should we keep, what product should we not keep, and then actually driving, sales? What's the strategy as far as growth goes?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a big numbers guy, right? So as a sports scientist, you're also a data scientist, whatever where, whatever science field you're in. If I worked in a lab as a researcher, so you have to become very good at data and spreadsheets. And I was also very good at math, so it's easy for me. So I'm a data guy. So I just come in at all these brands and I look at the data. What's the top sellers? What are the best net margins? And it's like right there. It's like common sense. And the hardest part of any brand, and I think the thing that separates me from most marketers and entrepreneurs, is my appreciation for the data and how I bury it into my team to a point where if they're not on board, they get fired. So in my businesses, I have data dashboards that show me every single number you could ever imagine for every single thing I ever need, that's updated hourly, that I can get with a click of a button. And what I've found, the reason I can build brands and actually they function without me, and I was sharing this at I actually shared this at my talk at Traffic and Conversion, was when the data is so clean and presented to everyone in the business, it's idiot proof, because I literally, like, I even asked my team, I'm like, here's the daily report. What should we do? And if something's made 20 grand and something's lost 5 grand and one webinar lead is worth $1,000 a phone call and one funnel is only getting you $200 per phone call in average revenue generated, what should we scale? And anyone can say, oh, you probably should do more of the one. Right. That's how I try and build these businesses. So even in Pier 1, I come in, first 2 weeks, I just became obsessed with all the numbers, all the data, all the financials. And I have like the team just building all these crazy reports. And they probably think I'm insane, but like now it works, because now everyone's like, oh, we should send an email with more of these products with the highest net margins that are also the highest net sellers. And oh, we did 100 grand here, but by the time we pay shipping, cost of goods, we hardly made any profit. So we probably should do less of this and like more of this. So that's what I try and do, because then it's just easy. Business becomes easy when you do that. Like at least the marketing and the scaling side of business, there's a lot more that goes into business around operations, teams, legal, fulfillment, blah, blah, blah. Right. But that side of it, I think the data is a big part of it.
I love the 80-20 approach. You look at whatever, it could be 95-5. What's the top 5% that's going to lead to 95% growth? And you look at the top sellers, you look at net margins. What are some of the other key metrics or data that you're looking at?
If you go granular in the data, EPC and net EPC, most people ignore that one. And that one is actually the most important. So that's earnings per click. And then also if you have fulfillment, it's net earnings per click. And I actually had the team run this report for one of the brands. I don't want to give too many details away for confidentiality, but, and it was actually very eye-opening for the team, because they gave me a report and it wasn't quite clear on what categories were the best sellers, what was the best one to scale. And it had great metrics that every marketer would look for. It had conversion rate, it had revenue, AOV. It had conversion rate, AOV. So 2 of the key metrics, right? But it still wasn't really clear, like, which one should we really scale? So when they're now go and add in EPC and then net EPC after COGS, and it was like we all sat on a screen share for 4 minutes and did it. And it was like wildly obvious. Like the EPC was kind of a little obvious, but then you have COGS. And then when we did net EPC with COGS, it was like one category was 300% higher in net revenue than all the rest. And
wow.
It's just, that again,
you have to dig deep into that. So like for people listening, the conversion rate, the average AOV, the average order volume, right? If someone's buying, 100 as opposed to $50, and then you're digging into the earnings per click and then the net earnings per click.
But get this. So again, I can't give away too many details, but the highest AOV was actually one of the worst net EPC, and the $30, the lowest AOV was the highest net EPC.
Wow. And if you just go off of AOV, you're like, oh, let's scale the AOV, but it wasn't profitable.
99% of people would have made that mistake, and they literally would have grown an entire business for 6 months based off one 4-minute mistake.
Oh, that's huge, right? I mean, it looks good, right? Because it produces a lot of, gross revenue, but it's not profitable.
Yeah. And now look, if you're selling info products and courses, it's a little simpler and you're probably safer with AOV. But for us in a physical company, especially when it's like some of our companies are clothing, electronics, furniture, you have more logistical stuff. You have fulfillment costs of that. You have large packet extra charges. And that's the stuff I have to now account for that I didn't when I was selling $19 fitness ebooks. I had refund rate and that 2% and 3% credit card fees. And then I had Facebook ad fees and that was it. Right.
So Rudy, talk to me, maybe like an overarching strategy. So, the company's like, okay, Rudy, we just bought RadioShack. Let's run with it.
And that's
what do you do?
Yeah, Alex will call me on a Sunday night. It will be because there's a long process leading up to it. Ty and Alex do more of the buying and the acquisition side. Like I'm more on the operation marketing side, which is great because that Alex has sold he sold Zeus for $250 million. So he's gone. He's been there, done that. And Ty's super experienced in that side. I'm not. And I'll get there. Like that's probably the next phase is me helping with that one day. But we also have to make sure all the brands we're buying are operated. So I have a very valuable role on this side of it. So, but it will be, back to your question, it will be, they'll obviously tell me early on the plan. Like I already know a major brand now, one of the biggest in the world that we're working on that I can't share because it's confidential. But it will, and they'll keep me updated. Like it's going to this phase, blah, blah, blah. It's with attorneys. It might go to auction. And then it will be like, now I know we're close. And then it will be, like we have calls every day. So you never know. But it's like, I'll answer it. And like, it'll be like, so, or something, one key word. And then it'll be like, we won RadioShack. So get ready. You're going to get the keys in 2 days. And
like,
then,
turn it on.
Okay. But yeah, to answer the question, it starts like that. And then it's, it's a lot in the first few weeks because you're taking over. I mean, if you bought any brand, it's a lot, right? You're trying to take over logins, figure out the brand, the analytics, all the stuff. And when it's a brand that's like been a big public brand, it's just even more, right? There's more legal stuff. Like RadioShack has like 70 international trademarks around the world and licenses and patents and stuff. Like it's stuff like that I've never experienced before, working with attorneys there. Some of them you have to work with another set of attorneys on who can you now email and text versus who has to re-opt in for compliance. And then it's just all kinds of wild stuff like that, right? And it's just there's 2 examples of stuff that we might not have to deal with every day as normal marketers with e-com, like our own e-com brands, right?
Yeah.
And it's like anything in life. I think a good analogy is, when you walk into like a bedroom and it's so messy, it's like, where do I start? But if you just start, by the end of the day, it's clean. And you just like sometimes you're just like, I just got to start somewhere. And it just falls into place as long as you're strategic and organized.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering, like 30,000 square foot view, you're starting, once you kind of see, the clouds part a little bit, you're cleaning stuff up. I'm wondering your methodology. So you may go, cool, like I'm going to look at these specific numbers. I'm going to build a dashboard. Like, what are the things you're doing next before you get to the fun stuff, like the marketing stuff, right? Because you have to do all that other, not maybe. So
yeah, so I mean, you got to get products on there, right? Because sometimes we take over stock, sometimes we take over no inventory. So we got to reestablish that. That's a big part of it, reestablishing with vendors and getting products and stock on there. We have to rebuild the e-com site, and we use my agency a lot to do a lot of that, and we have internal teams. But with my agency and the internal team we have for all the brands, we know it's more turnkey, right? Because we've done it 8 times now, or however many times. I lose track of how many brands we've got. And obviously my agency's done thousands of sites, but specifically for these e-com brands, it's more turnkey at this point. So we rebuild the site or take over the current site. We get all the ad accounts set up. We look at the team, because sometimes we take over we don't have to, but sometimes we'll hire a lot of the old employees. Sometimes we'll hire new employees, and we'll lean on our current team as well to get stuff started. We'll look through the data, the analytics. And don't get me wrong, like, not day one, I'm probably not building these dashboards. I'm like trying to get stuff rolling and just get some traffic there, looking at the email list, looking at the best emails they've sent, how the automations are built out. Just kind of piecing all that together, trying to get once you've got products on there, getting some ads on, and then it's just like stepping stones after that, right? So like, what's next? And, before you know it, 30, 60, 90 days in, you're in control of everything. It's going well and you're scaling it up.
Do you have an email platform? I imagine you probably inherit a lot of these different softwares. They're already sending emails through this system and this system. What email systems do you prefer? Do you bring them on, like, as far as that goes?
We use, because it's Shopify, we use Klaviyo because it just integrates so well with Shopify, right?
Has anything surprised you as you've gone in, you're looking under the hood of some of these brands, of some of the emails or design or things that have converted? Because you've probably seen so many campaigns at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a lot surprised me, and I live by an ethics code, which I share with the team, is because there was a lot of time of like, oh, this is not what Pier 1 used to do. And I have this one rule. I'm like, never follow a $1 billion brand that went bankrupt. If they did that, let's do the opposite at this end of the spectrum. So I often have to remind people of that. So I'd sense, and I'm not saying all these brands are bad. They did a lot of great stuff. But just in general, it's like you have to forget the old way and like do the new way, right? So there's some great stuff, there's some great stuff in there, and there's some stuff that you're just amazed at, right? Some of the brands take weeks to send out emails and get organized, whereas internet marketers, we want to send out an email, we send our tech guy a Slack message, send this, and 5 minutes later it's being sent out, right? So I think that's a big part of it that we bring, is that speed and that pivoting and that testing ethos that a lot of us entrepreneurs have, that big brands don't have, because they have so many hoops to jump through, right? If you want an email sent in corporate, it has to go like plan 2 weeks early, because it's got to go through like 8 people to get approved. But yeah, in terms of what does well, the biggest thing that I've found, not just even in these brands, but in all the brands that I run, like my own personal brands and my clients under the agency, is like it always comes back to the hook and the offer. The more and more I've done of this, it's the hook and the offer. Like 3-4 years ago, I was like, it's the ads, it's the copy. Now I'm like, it's the hook and the offer. And I know this to be true because...
Well, Justin and Stefan just love that you said that.
Yeah. But you can almost, and they might not love this part as much, but I think you can even have pretty bad copy. If the hook and the offer is insane, then it sells itself. And I know that's true in the e-com side, because these brands, you look at the emails and the ads, none of them, look at any big brand in America, the Facebook ads you see that have thousands of likes and shares, none of them have this long copy that pulls on emotion and then urgency and taps all the, ticks all the boxes on what's great copy. It's just either a really cool, great product at a great price, probably with some sort of flash sale, or it's not, right? So that's kind of, and you can take the hook and the offer, in the marketing world with funnels, the copy is sure, it's more important. But even in my own business, we test a lot of hooks, and offers. And it's 90% is the hook and the offer. Like I can throw up a page with 2 hours of copy and a 2-minute video, less copy, an hour of copy or no copy, a headline, a subheadline, a video. And if the hook and offer is strong, it'll scale. If it's weak, it won't. And I can have my best copywriter spend a week writing a sales page. If the hook and the offer is not perfect, then that sales page will still flop, right? So
I think they would agree with that. I mean, the hook is part of the copy and everything. But so what would be an example, Rudy, of a hook and offer that you just saw convert, do really well?
Well, so a good example is my my 3 top selling courses that have all done millions of dollars alone in my own brands. Is my first fitness one that made me my first millions was a 90-day bikini plan. Okay.
Okay.
And it still sells to this day, hundreds of thousands of copies sold. And the ironic part is I wrote that sales page. I remember I wrote the sales page on an iPad. I had one Indian developer at $5 an hour on Upwork code the page. I was on an iPad at the pool in Orlando when my dad and his family came to visit from the UK. And the copy was not great. It's still not great, but I've had world-class copywriters, including myself, try and rewrite it with a new hook and lead in and flow and more long form. No one's ever beat it. It's like, because it's the hook and the offer. Okay. And it's not even that cool. It's 90-day bikini plan. It's not like this, game changing hook and offer. But that was an example.
What was the offer there? So the hook is like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just $19 and you get everything, all your meal plan. You get meal plans, training plans, supplement plans. And, it's a 90-day bikini plan. And, a bit of the hook is I'm a leading sports scientist and I'm teaching you about hormones and more advanced mechanisms that no one else does. And that's why you're going to get results. But it's a prime example of that hook and offer. It's just led the way and it's never been beaten. And I probably split tested 40 other fitness funnels in the last few years, over the years, and nothing ever beat it.
Rudy, I know we have a few more minutes here. I would love to hear, it's kind of a throwaway comment. Yeah, like I spend a few hours a month and I built this 60-person agency. That's, a huge deal. And I want to talk about just a few things that were key for you to systemize in that agency, because most people can't step out of that role. So.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I spent 16 hours a day of tremendous stress, blood, sweat, for 3 years to get it to this point.
No, I get it. Totally.
Yeah. But I guess to answer the question, look, it comes back to the chess stuff, right? That I'm see the big picture, I'm systematic, I'm strategic, and I try to build, at least now, not years ago, but I try to build all my businesses to do that. So I want to empower my staff, hire great. It's all about the people, right? You hear that saying a lot. But I make sure I have a great team. I make sure I have good staff. I make sure I have really good systems. And most importantly, I build my systems. If you go back to the homepage, all my staff are at the bottom too. But I make sure.
There was one page I was trying to get to where they're all wearing ROI Machines shirts. I love that.
I think at the bottom.
Oh, it's the bottom. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But what I was saying is I build the systems and the training for my team based on my brain. So it's like I almost build my brain into, I know what you're talking about. If you go to about an FAQ, top header, I mean, it's the careers page probably.
No, this is what I was looking for. Yeah, they all have, I'm an ROI machine.
Yeah, so we do quarterly retreats. So I fly everyone from around the world into Orlando. I get 2 or 3 big mansions and we have a week together. I mean, we haven't since COVID, but yeah. But it's like I build my brain and my strategy into the team and into my own systems. Okay. So then it's still me running the business because it's my brain, but it's like I've taught them and built a system where they can run the day-to-day of that brain for me, right? So I'm not like following up, is this task done? Is this sent out? Did we do this? Did we do this, right? So yeah, you've got to build great teams, great systems, hire great people, and then just figure out where your unique area of genius is, and then spend your time there. And then eventually, if you want to fully step out, you've got to hire someone really good on a really high salary that's super experienced to fill that last gap that only you could fill. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can get close to that part, but most can't ever do that part because it's so hard to do that.
What helped you do that?
I think a lot of us have an internal fear / mindset barrier that we can find that person. And I think for me, like I've always said, I love marketing, I love the agency, but it's not my life. It's not going to be my legacy in my life. It's going to be a business I built for a few years that I want to keep running, but I don't want to be doing this in 5-10 years. And I got to the point where it was pretty built out. It was doing well. We had a great team. I hired a kind of director of performance. His name's Sean. He worked with Agora for 8 years, has a bunch of copy and experience background there, marketing strategy. And, you know, I was kind of at a point where I was like, I think you just got to like cold turkey it. So I was like, and all the stuff was happening with the new brand. So it was like a good time because
it was forced
a little. So I was like, you know, and even a couple of my staff, you know, I remember one of my staff was like really scared. She's like, Rudy, I don't think you should do this. What happens if it all crumbles?
It's scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Let's do it. And you like the staff and the team and the systems are good enough to notice if the issues start to arise. It's not like you're going to walk out. Well, firstly, I never walked out. I still check in and I still help and I still provide the strategy for clients, which is the 80-20, but it's something I can do in 5 minutes or in the first call, and then it's set, right? And the team can action it. And yeah, it's like I'm very proud. It's work. The agency runs just as well without me as it did with me.
Rudy, thank you so much. I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone should check out your websites, roimachines.com. You could check out what they're working on at Retail Ecommerce, Retail Ecommerce Ventures.com. And thanks so much, Rudy.
Yeah,
you're awesome.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.